Alicia White. I'm here today to teach you how to grow ferns from spores. What may qualify me to teach this today? One entry-level college biology course. You may also be wondering if I've ever successfully grown ferns from spores. Well, we'll revisit that question later at the end of the video. The hardest part of growing a fern from a spore is probably acquiring the spores in the first place. Now there's three options. You can contact the Fern Society and gather spores through the spore exchange. Yes, that is an option. It does exist. You can collect spores from ferns themselves, from the underside of the fern leaf. Or you can actually go online, Amazon, and purchase spores yourself. That might be the easiest choice out of all three. Once your spores are collected, they can be stored in a variety of containers. It could be soilless, it could be with soil. Medium containers, ideal because the spores are so small. For me, in my class, we chose to use a sterile petri dish only because outside organisms couldn't grow in these petri dishes. So it was basically just a home for the fern spores. This is what that petri dish looks like. We just added water, but I'll come to that in a few minutes. So you can use a soilless mix, which that's what we use, and it's actually used by most commercial growers because they can be purchased and pre-mixed and meet specific sterilized requirements. If you prefer getting a growing mix, a microwave is one of the easiest ways to sterilize the mix. For instance, soil. Personally, like I said, I placed mine in the sterile petri dish. That way, nothing like fungus or viruses, bacteria could colonize within the petri dish, besides the spores. Once you get the container, you're going to evenly distribute the little tiny spores within that container. That way you can keep track of where they are and where you can see points of growth as time goes on. A controlled environment with even temperatures and controlled illumination will encourage faster development within the spores. Excuse me. Place the containers under fluorescent lights within your house, anywhere between 6 to 24 inches from the light, or also indirect natural sunlight. That's also a option if you don't have access to a grow light or just normal fluorescent lights. Okay, some specific species of ferns require a period of darkness before being exposed to light, but I'm sure whatever spore you get, it will tell you on the package. It'll have complete directions because some don't need this period of time in darkness and some do. So it's basically going to depend on the species you have. As far as temperature goes, you're going to want to have a growing area in the range of 55 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Spores can be fairly touchy as far as temperature and environment to grow in. They do require a fairly stable temperature. Once the spores are in the petri dish and your light is set up, then you're going to want to water daily with distilled water. I prefer not to use tap water because there's all kinds of extra nutrients within the water, but yeah, distilled is probably the best water. So after 4 to 14 days, you should start to see a green translucent film covering the area where you had dispersed your fern spores. Basically what that is, gametophytes. What that does is signal that germination has taken place. So the gametophyte actually begins to grow from a long tongue-like thread to a heart-shaped prothily. but they're too small to be seen unless under magnification. Crowded cultures can be thinned. So if you see a lot of dots and you want to thin the herd basically and make sure that only a few really good ferns possibly can survive within the dish, go ahead and thin those out. They can be thinned using your fingernail. They could be thinned using tweezers, forceps, whatever you have to toothpick to get the clusters out. Okay, if you have lots of room, you can actually transplant clumps into larger containers or several containers. Gametes will develop over time. As your fern changes from sporophyte and produces spores, it's going to need additional care to fully reproduce. If you follow these steps, the spores will become gametophytes and will eventually release gametes. So now for what not to do. First of all, do not fill a container with water and spores for ferns and then leave them in your car for a couple days in extreme weather. Also, do not overfill your container with water. For example, my container, I overfilled the water level and it actually spilled over. So I wasn't sure if I had any more little spores. I did. Also, remember to water. Do not forget to water. So you may ask, have I ever successfully grown a fern myself from a spore? No, I have not. It is very difficult. But good luck and thank you for watching.